Gentlemen, welcome to der Neue Struwwelpeter, graphics in game art and an exploration of the presence and influence of graphic art styles in video games. So first of all, I hope everybody here is doing good and I hope to see you soon. Yeah, and let's get through those weird times together. So, let's start. Table of contents, the summary of the practical part, summary of the theoretical part, update on the current status, and plan for the foreseeable future. Those are the points we're going to get through today. So, first of all, summary of the practical part. So, der Neue Struwwelpeter, that's the practical project. Der Neue Struwwelpeter is an art style focused roguelite platformer with heavy influences of German illustrators from the mid 19th century. What does that mean? Well, it means you take the good stuff from something like Super Meat Boy and Cuphead and mix it jolly stuff up with some German illustrators like Heinrich Hoffmann or Wilhelm Busch or Heinrich Zille or something. Well, there's a bunch of good examples. So what do I want to create? Well, I want to create an art book. That's why I'm doing all the artwork for it, and especially my attempts of translating the modern aesthetics into this old-timey look. Then storybook, I want to make I want to revamp of the Struwwelpeter, called der Neue Struwwelpeter, with like modernized for this age, kind of a funny look at old Prussian morals in a modern society. Then a game design document. For all we know, I'm also in game design as a minor, not the major, but I want that to be shown in some way. And at last but not least, a marketable show reel or prototype would be in order. That could be the hardest part. Could be, well, will be the hardest part, but I want this to reach wider audiences. So my thesis is gonna be covering the symbiotic relationship between the graphic arts and digital games. What does that mean? Well, I want to show that there's parallels in between games, like we take Okami or we take Cuphead or something, and memorability. That those are the games that stay longer in the collective memory of the gamer than maybe the look and feel of like one of the last Call of Duties. More like this approach for photorealism and not maybe like memorability in the look. So I want to do this so we can there's almost like a guideline so you could purposely reproduce that effect. So understanding how certain illustrative, character, and graphic design stylizations in games occur and purposely reproduce in visual effect. That would, I think that'd be a valuable contribution to maybe not only game artists but game designers for that sense, or like level artists or something. Well, the current status, the practical part, concept art exists already. It's come together piece by piece. And the first draft of the storybook is almost finished, so I've rewritten the whole thing, and now I'm, bundling up my efforts to go to the illustration, and a couple of 2D assets and test animations already exist. The theoretical part, rough draft of the first person, after the first presentation now exists. That means after my presentation for Gundolf and Andre at the Game Studies Summit, I came off of that with a bunch of valuable input and some valid critique, and I could really hyper focus my research efforts from there. So I've got a bunch of stuff now, and I'm trying to sift through that and trying to find the most valuable stuff in the middle of that. So yeah, and I've got a first like summary and some attempts at an introduction. It's mostly for myself to like gather my thoughts and see what I'm trying to say. Well, here what we have done, left and right, you see, or what we have done, what I have done. Bleh. So what we see here, left and right, is der Hans Kungni Luft from the original book, and the middle is kind of an asset assembly that I built. Each and every part of that can be taken apart and reassembled in another way, but it still retains that look of der Struwwelpeter in that sense. So yeah, that kind of works already, and I've been doing that in all kinds of assets. These are still from the Bachelor, degree, something that I already had. And, I think it translates, this old-timey world look into like this new stuff. And it's got a certain weird aesthetic to it. When it comes to animations, here I've dealt with the idea of making, these like, almost like these paper puppet looks, especially because in the book all the figures always have their extremities always very wide apart and like reminds you of one of these dolls that you can like pull string and the legs go up and down, etc. And I've translated that into test animations, and these test animations, the main influence for that are early animation reels that look really wonky. If you want an example for that, well, here's Pauvre Pierrot. You can check it out online. It's free. You can download the movie and all kinds of stuff. It's one of the first like animation reels when the kinetoscope didn't even really exist yet. So, what's the future of the project? Well, the practical part, I'm still working on the first draft of the storybook and I'm starting to work on the illustrations, and I probably have to reread it a bunch and maybe show someone else and see if it's actually a funny story or something before I even consider doing the animations, the illustration. But more animations are coming too. For the future to see if that works, and um, to get going with the whole project as it is. And the theoretical part, well, research, a bunch of research to organize and to give the whole thing structure in a new rough draft. And of course, all this has to go through peer review, kind of. They're run it by by mentors or something, and yeah, we'll see where that goes. Yeah, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and I hope to see you guys soon. Keep safe, keep healthy, wash your hands.